The Eagles finally wrapped up training camp today, but it comes at an expense as players continue to drop with injuries. We'll talk about that, and it leads us to another big question. Will Howie Roseman go out and dial up a trade package for a Pro Bowl cornerback? Fans seem to be debating whether or not, after the last joint practice with the Browns, that it could be a real possibility. We'll react to that, and last but not least, some of the latest competition updates at camp, as well as some surprises. We'll break it all down right here on A to Z Philly, but welcome into the show. I am RB, and unfortunately, we have to start it off with injuries. Unfortunately, injuries continue to happen in the league more and more as the years go on, but we started off already in camp. The Eagles dealing with a ton as Johnny Wilson got carted off of the field yesterday at practice, went into the medical tent, and then they carted him off, and he was grimacing in pain. It looked like he got rolled up on. So Johnny Wilson, after an impressive 2 weeks, goes down, and I guess you could say the John Metchie trade maybe happened at the perfect time. Maybe Howie anticipated needing to have more depth. But on the other side of the ball, Andrew Makuba also started grabbing his hamstring after a one-on-one rep. He went and talked to the trainers, and then he left the field, and he did not come back. So Andrew Makuba now dealing with a hamstring as well. Not what you want to see from the young safety who essentially won the job a few days ago, and now we're, 2 weeks away from opening night? And we also have Jordan Mailata, who now is out with a concussion, so he should probably be good to go for week one, but at the time being, he is now dealing with an injury as well. So we look at the Eagles injury report. This team barely dealt with any major injuries last year, and we're not even to the regular season yet. A.J. Brown is still dealing with the hamstring injury, not practicing. You have Louis Cine, Landon Dickerson with the knee, Mailata, Tanner McKee hurt his finger a couple days ago. Ringo's out with a quad right now. Makuba, Devontae Smith, Josh Uche, and now Johnny Wilson. So I'm getting so sick and tired of these injuries. They're already piling up, and the Eagles need to do whatever it takes to keep this team bubble wrapped over the next couple of weeks, because honestly, I'm getting sick and tired of all these injuries when their philosophy to begin with is to not really play any of the starters in preseason, and they're already seeing guys go down. So it's just unfortunate, but hopefully they can stay healthy in the long term for this season. Now, one of the guys that they picked up who might actually be an integral piece, especially with A.J. Brown dealing with injuries, is John Metchie. And here he was out at practice yesterday, and he got on the field. He's wearing number 80. So all indications are that he will make this roster. Maybe he will be a punt returner. They said he was getting some reps there. So maybe that is why Howie went out and did this. But like I said, Howie Vision can see the future. You have Johnny Wilson go down. You have AJ dealing with a lingering hamstring right now. Maybe John Metchie is actually going to come in here and get some real snaps and be able to catch some passes in week one from Jalen Hurts. We'll just have to see how it goes. Obviously, a lot to learn in a little bit of time. Eagles coach Nick Sirianni talked about John Metchie. He says, I liked him coming out. We have a bunch of Alabama guys on the roster. I was talking to those guys. As you see in Alabama's game when he came out, obviously he made a lot of plays there. I was always a fan of his game. Being able to watch him, he is quick. He is very quick. That's the thing that really stood out to me, is how tough he is with how he blocks, how he finishes on the sideline with the ball in his hand. So he has some high praise for John Metchie. We'll see what he can do. And that takes us to another receiver, Darius Cooper, the undrafted player out of Tarleton State that is one of the main winners of training camp. He has been absolutely turning heads. Nobody gave this guy a chance. He was undrafted, and now he is one of the best UDFAs in all of training camp across the league. Another big, nice catch today in traffic from Jalen Hurts. There were 3 or 4 defenders in the area. He jumped up, caught it, made a strong-handed catch, and ESP confirms Darius Cooper is making the team. The last couple of practices, he has barely even played because they don't want to get him hurt. He's that good that they're trying to make sure that he is preserved for week one. Darius Cooper is one of the best stories of training camp. He is making the roster. It's starting to feel like Darius Cooper is wide receiver 3 or 4 on this team. And the reason I say wide receiver 3 is because we all thought that Jahan Dotson had it, far and away. But Brandon Lee Gowton said here on Twitter that Jahan Dotson has not had a bad offseason by any means, but Darius Cooper has been the Eagles' 3rd best receiver at camp behind A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So that brings us to the question, would you trade Jahan Dotson for anything? Maybe to upgrade the roster on the defensive side. If the Eagles are that big of a believer in Darius Cooper right now and he continues to turn heads and make plays, Would you sacrifice Jahan Dotson with 1 year left on his deal? Give me your thoughts on that down below. Now, before we get to a potential trade target, Vic Fangio was asked yesterday if he's disappointed that nobody has emerged at the CB2 yet. He says usually at this point in camp, a player competing for a job will have shown they are the clear-cut best option, but that has not happened yet at cornerback 2, which is certainly disappointing. It is very eye-opening, and the Eagles have 2 weeks to figure this out. Eagles camp notes from yesterday, Kelee Ringo did not receive any first-team reps. Adoree Jackson got the bulk of the work. Cooper DeJean actually moved outside in certain base looks. Fangio says the competition for CB2 will go through the third preseason game. So the Eagles still do not have another cornerback. They gave Kelee the opportunity to go out there and get the first-team reps and win the job. Simply put, he hasn't been good enough. If the season started tomorrow, Adoree Jackson would be the guy. And to that, I say the Eagles need to go out and make a trade. And who is the perfect trade target? 4-time Pro Bowler Denzel Ward, who left yesterday's Browns practice with a shoulder injury. It is not believed to be anything serious. He's undergoing more tests. The belief is that he'll be fine. Maybe we have to do a little reading between the lines here. Maybe this is the first step, a practice injury, and he goes out and he's sitting now, and maybe this is the potential for Howie Roseman to jump in and try to get a deal done. Whether the Browns want to trade him or not, the Eagles need him, and they have things that they can offer up. One of 13 draft picks, Jahan Dotson, Kelee Ringo, others as well. So that takes us to a debate question here on Twitter from Thomas Mott. He says, would the Eagles and Browns do this trade? Denzel Ward for Jahan Dotson, Kelee Ringo, and a 5th-round pick. Matter of fact, I would give up more. I would give up a third. I'd give up a second. I'd almost think about giving up a first. This Eagles team is good enough to win again this season. They got younger. They got cheaper. Maybe they gave up a little bit too much. Nonetheless, Denzel Ward is a lockdown corner, and if you have a chance to add him to this roster, it completes this defense for the most part. And I know there's going to be people down below that say, oh, we can't give up Jahan Dotson. Yes, we can. Jahan Dotson's a great player. He was great in his role, but of course you can give him up. Of course you can give up a high draft pick because the Eagles can't afford to keep 13 players after next year's draft, and Howie has continually said he will do what it takes to improve the roster and use those assets. So let's look at Denzel Ward. This year, his base salary, $13.4 million. And his cap hit is $24.5 million. That's a lot. I don't know if Howie Roseman wants to bring an expensive piece in, but when you look at where the roster's at, when you look at the fact that most rosters are set right now, are the Eagles really confident in putting Adoree Jackson out there week 1? I personally can't say they are. So would the Eagles go out and make a big trade for Denzel Ward? I think they should consider it. And you look at the cornerback contracts in the NFL, even though that's a high figure, Denzel Ward is actually on a bargain of a contract. Right now, he is 7th in the NFL in terms of average salary per year, which is a great steal for a guy that has made 4 Pro Bowls. He is a lockdown corner. He was voted on by the writers before this upcoming season as the 3rd best corner in the NFL. He would come in, be an absolute lockdown. He has 2 more years after this upcoming year, but a potential out on his contract, so you could try to work an extension. He's 27 years old, and he's in his prime right now. I think this would be an amazing trade for the Eagles to make, but on the other end, the Browns would have to do it as well. So I went back to this article from a few months ago. ESPN's Bill Barnwell says Cleveland would not get a very satisfying return, comparing Ward to a couple other star corners in that regard. Denzel Ward is still one of the league's top cornerbacks, but teams do not want to send significant draft capital for great corners after they've signed veteran extensions, like with Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey, both failing to land even a 2nd-round pick for their teams. Ward signed a 5-year, $100 million extension with Cleveland back in April 22. Considering where the market is now, that is actually one heck of a bargain for the former 1st-round pick. And you know what they say, man, desperation will lead you to do crazy things. So look, the Eagles have a game in 2 weeks. They need another suitable corner. We can't go out there with what we've seen from this franchise in a lot of seasons over the last decade or last 15 years and go out there with a corner that is volatile, that is suspect, right? The last couple of years we have been blessed, right? In 2022 and this past year, watching how these corners went to work. And sure, maybe you can move Cooper DeJean outside and base and all that stuff, but I like Cooper at the nickel. I think that is where he is best suited. I don't think you want to mess a good thing up. And I think the Eagles need to go out and address this by getting another option. You can easily see that Vic Fangio is worried about it. Last but not least, we have Zack Baun, who comes in at number 26 officially on the NFL's top 100 list. Shout out to Zack Baun, one of the best stories in the NFL in recent memory. Goes from a backup to a top 30 player in one season. Never give up on your dreams. And lastly, speaking of giving up on dreams, Jalen Hurts never does that. And he says this about dealing with quote-unquote newness every season. It's not about where I am. It's about where we are as a team. Things change around you as a quarterback. It's about focusing all my energy on doing whatever I need to do to help this team win from my position. He's locked in. Look at that face. He's ready to go. He's ready to get back to work and try to win another trophy. Jalen had a big day to end training camp. A lot of people have been, talking about him up and down. Like I said, we can't put too much into training camp stock, but what a day for Jalen Hurts. 14 for 15, barely missed anything, 4 touchdowns, no picks, A+ grade, and that's how you end it off with a bang. Getting ready for week 1. Eagles will take on the Cowboys on opening night, and I think they are going to have their way with them. We still have a couple battles that have not been decided yet, so the Eagles need to figure this out. Hopefully they do. Give me your thoughts down below. Would you go out and trade a couple players and a high draft pick for a solid cornerback or a Pro Bowl cornerback around the league? Give me your thoughts down below. As always, appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.